What's up, guys? My name's Emily, and I'm so glad that you tuned back in with us here on Virtual SHiNE for week 2 in our series, Bold. So last week, Bench talked to us about being bold in prayer. And this week, I want to talk to us a little bit about being bold in trust. And so I'm sure you remember, but a little while ago, there was this trend on TikTok where people would start with a paper clip or like a rubber band and trade it for like a bracelet, sneakers, a speaker, and eventually get up to these really big prizes like a new car or a house. And so it's just crazy to see that when we put our trust in people and through different connections, how we can go from something so small to a massive like reward or gain or anything like that. And so in Daniel 6, we see the story about Daniel and his 3 friends and how they started going through training, and after training, Daniel ended up being appointed or like promoted to high authority. So this made his friends jealous, of course, because if your friend got promoted and you didn't, wouldn't you be a little jealous even though you were doing maybe like the same things? But anyway, in Daniel verse 4, chapter 6 verse 4, Daniel was described as always faithful, always responsible, and completely trustworthy. And he had accomplished this, and then accomplishing his high authority through integrity. And so it's important that we start to like build integrity, as integrity is like our trustworthiness and like our morals and things like that. And so it can be hard to understand how to wrap our heads around and understand how we can like build our integrity if we're not really sure what integrity is. So in 1 Timothy 6:11, it says, "But you, Timothy, are a man of God, so run from all things evil. Pursue righteousness and a godly life, along with faith, love, perseverance, and gentleness. Fight for the good fight for true faith. Hold tightly to all eternal life to which God has called you, which you have declared so well before all my witnesses." And so from this story in Daniel, we can take away 3 things about integrity and trustworthiness. So the first one is that trust leads us to obedience. And so by obeying God, it always follows trust. And so that being said, oftentimes we can put our trust into things like our friends, our job, or maybe like money, that we want to like buy this really cool pair of sneakers, or social media and our popularity on our different social media platforms. So I would encourage you to think about the phrase, "When I'm afraid, I put my trust in blank." And think about how you would fill in that blank, whether, like I said, it's with your friends, your family, social media, or anything like that. It can be real easy to put our trust in earthly things, but I would encourage you to start to put your trust in God, as He leads to obedience, which follows into our next one, and that trusting God in every circumstance. Now, this can be easier said than done, as it can be easy to trust God, especially in easy times, versus harder, more difficult times where it's a little more cloudy and seeing God's presence and like how He is moving and shaping us. But in one of my favorite verses, Romans 8:18, it says that the pain that you've been feeling can't compare to the joy that's coming. And so this is just a great example, in my opinion, of how we see God's trust, because if we can trust Him in the hard times, He'll take our hard times and our difficult situations and like make joy come out of those situations. So even though we may be feeling hurt, sad, or lonely, He can turn those situations and our pain that maybe we go through during that time to shape us and mold us into joy and happiness and different stories that then we can share with others, which leads into our last point of that trust is a witness. And so when we're in everyday life, it can be hard to see that our actions can actually impact other people. And this is true for everything. In all aspects of our life, God is constantly molding us and shaping us into who He wants us to be so that we can go out and be a light for other people. And that starts with our obedience and our trust. Because if we can't trust God with the little things and help us with little things, then it's that much harder to trust God with the big things. So I would encourage you this week to think about some areas that maybe you find it a little bit hard to obey God in or fully turn your trust over to God with, as He knows everything anyway. So sometimes it can be easy to have that in mind, of knowing that you don't have to hide anything from God. One, because God knows everything, and two, you can go with God with anything and He will never judge you, because He forgives us in everything. He loves us. He calls us His children. And so He just has unconditional love for us. And then the last question I would like to leave you with is, what accountability can you place in your life to become a little bit more obedient to Jesus? So thank you for tuning in with me this week, and we'll see you next week. Go Bills!